everyone, Anne O'Connell with OC Publishing here, and welcome to the author journey. It's been a great September here. It's been beautiful. The weather's been gorgeous, and that's kind of typical for Halifax, Nova Scotia. Hopefully you're enjoying the nice fall weather. And today we have a very, very special guest who's been out and about doing book tours and book signings and media interviews. And we're very, very happy to have her join us today. It's Amanda Peters, who is a writer of Micmac and Settler ancestry. Her best-selling debut novel, The Berry Pickers, won the Barnes & Noble Discover Prize, the Andrew Carnegie Medal for Excellence in Fiction, the Dartmouth Book Award, and the Crime Writers of Canada First Crime Novel Award. I was actually at the Dartmouth Book Awards, and that was a very exciting night. Everybody was really thrilled because as a local gal who's just, taking off and doing so well, it was a real heady night. Peters has a certificate in creative writing from the University of Toronto, and she is a graduate of the Master of Fine Arts program at the Institute of American Indian Arts in Santa Fe, New Mexico. Amanda Peters lives and writes in the Annapolis Valley, Nova Scotia, with her fur babies, Holly and Pook. She's an associate professor in the Department of English and Theatre at Acadia University in Wolfville, Nova Scotia. Her new collection of short stories, Waiting for the Long Night Moon, came out on August 13th. So we've got lots to chat about with Amanda. So I'm going to bring her up to join me. Hi, Amanda.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Oh, it's my pleasure, and welcome to the author journey. I'm very excited that you were able to include us in your tour. So you have been on the road a lot lately.
Yes, and it's just gonna get even crazier. So right up until Christmas.
Oh my goodness. So you're out and about, but right now you are home in the Annapolis Valley in Nova Scotia.
Yep, sitting in my reading chair in my living room. So nice
Isn't
and cozy.
that's really nice. And so we're both enjoying this glorious September weather, which
Mhm.
is amazing. So congratulations on all of the accolades. And like I said, I was at the awards when you won that, and it was just like the whole room erupted. It was just how did it feel? Your first novel. Oh my goodness.
I know it's so crazy. I always say that I expected maybe my parents would read this and a few people in Nova Scotia, and then I go back to my life and that would be it. But yeah, it's gained a lot of attention, and I just every time I feel like pinch me,
Isn't
basically
that
like I'm always in this state of awe that this is happening.
That's wonderful. And so it's your first novel.
Mhm.
What inspired you to write it? Like what was the lead up to that? Just
Yeah, so my dad and his family were berry pickers, Mi'kmaq berry pickers in the Maine fields
wow.
in the '60s
Okay.
and the '70s. So I've grown up my whole life hearing the stories of the Maine berry fields. So my dad wanted me to write about it, and I write fiction. So I explained to him that I write fiction. But he took me down there in 2017. We went on a father-daughter trip to Maine. We went to the berry fields, and he told me all the stories. And while I was down there, it just started coming to me that there was, and then for the longest time, I thought it was a short story, but other people convinced me that it would serve to be a novel. So I was like, okay, let's see what happens. So it's now a novel.
Oh, oh my goodness. And it is riveting. It's gripping. And what makes it even more so is that it is based on truth.
Hmm.
Right. And and just this day and age of this truth and reconciliation and telling the stories and being so open and authentic. So talk a little bit about how it felt as you were writing it. Like what were some of the emotions that drove you
Oh,
through?
yeah. It's kind of a sad book for everybody who's read it, but there's also joy in there.
Mm,
But sometimes there's some hard parts, and I just have to walk away for a while. But
mm,
overwhelmingly, I enjoyed the writing process. It was part of my thesis for the Institute for American Indian Arts. The first, I think, is 7 chapters.
oh
So I
wow.
was submitting it to be graded and submitting it to be workshopped. So I really had that support. So I was very fortunate to have that support in bringing the story to life. So yeah, that was a really positive experience as well. Yeah.
Wow. And so, how, but when you were studying in New Mexico, like what brought you to Santa Fe, New Mexico to do your studies? Like why
Well,
there?
it's a low residency, so I didn't actually have to go to New Mexico all the
Oh,
time.
okay.
Like I went for we were
That's
supposed
too
to go.
bad.
Yeah, we were supposed to go twice a year for 8 days at
Mhm.
a time, but then COVID happened, right? So it was
Okay.
all online on Zoom, but I did actually get to go for my graduation residency and meet all my cohort in fiction. So what led me there was I was thinking I would like to learn more. I'm a lifelong learner. Like my MFA was my fourth master's degree.
Oh my gosh.
I just love to learn. I'll sign up for courses and stuff like that. So I was like, well, I kind of want to do more in writing because this is what I want my life to go. And my
Mhm.
friend had said to me, have you heard of the Institute for American Indian Arts? And I was like, no. And I Googled it and I was like, oh, this is for me. And it was. It
Wow.
was a brilliant experience. I absolutely loved it.
Wow. And how long time were you studying
It was two
there?
years. It's a
2
2-year
years.
program. Yep. So we
Okay.
started in 2020 and we graduated in 2022.
Wow. So you said the first 7 chapters of The Berry Pickers was part of your thesis.
Yeah.
So maybe this is a good time for you to maybe read a little bit from The Berry Pickers so we get a feel for
Sure.
how
I
it.
always start at the beginning of the berry pickers just because I don't want to give things away. It's not like short stories where you can read a little bit of a short story, but so I always just start at the beginning for anybody who hasn't read it. And I'm just gonna read a brief piece. And this is the first line of this is actually came to me when I was down in the berry fields with my dad. The day Ruthie went missing, the black fly seemed to be especially hungry. The white folks at the store where we got our supplies said the Indians made such good berry pickers because something sour in her blood kept the black flies away. But even then, as a boy of 6, I knew that wasn't true. Black flies don't discriminate. But now, lying here almost 50 years to the day and getting eaten from inside out by a disease I can't even see, I'm not sure what's true and what's not anymore. Maybe we are sour. Regardless of the taste of our blood, we still got bit, but Mom knew how to make the itching stop at night so we could get some sleep. She peeled the bark off an alder branch and chewed it to a pulp before putting it on the bites. Hold still, Joe. Stop squirming, Mom said as she applied the thick paste. The alders grew all along the thin line of trees that bordered the back of the fields. Those fields stretched on forever, or so it seemed then. Mr. Ellis, the landowner, had sectioned the land with big rocks, making it easier to keep track of where we had been and where we needed to go. But eventually and always you'd reach the trees again. Either the trees or Route 9, a crumbling road littered with holes the size of watermelon and as deep as a lake, a dark line of asphalt slithering its way through the fields that brought us here each year. Even then in 1962, there weren't many houses along Route 9, and those that were there were already old, and the gray-white paint peeling away, the porches tilted and rotting, the tall grass growing green and yellow between abandoned cars and refrigerators, their rust flaking off and flying away with a strong wind. When we arrived from Nova Scotia, midsummer, a caravan of dark-skinned workers, laughing and singing, traveling through their overgrown and rusting world, the local folks turned their backs, our present a testament to their failure to prosper. The only time that place showed any joy at all was in the fall, when the setting sun shone gold and the fields glowed under a glorious September sky.
Oh.
A little bit of the setting.
Wow, that really does set the mood and the scene so
Mm.
so beautifully. So what was your dad's reaction when you like did you share it with him as you were writing or did you wait till you were
Mm,
finished?
no, I waited till was finished, so he didn't read it until it came out. So, it's the first book he's ever read. My dad's more of a hands-on, work with your hands kind of guy.
Mhm.
So him and my stepmother sat on opposite ends of the couch, apparently down at their house, and they read it together. And he said he was proud, and I was really pleased with that. And my mom is a ferocious reader. My mom
Awesome.
is off always either she has knit needles in her hand or she has a book in her hand. So
Oh,
she
wow.
read it, and of course, she said she was proud and she loved it. So really, that's what all you can ask for is that your parents proud of you.
Oh, absolutely. And did your dad grow up on reserve? On a reserve?
No,
Oh.
my grandmother and grandfather grew up on separate
Mhm.
reserves here in Nova Scotia,
Mhm.
but they had moved off reserve to raise their family down here
Mhm.
in the Annapolis Valley. So
So they
yeah.
were from Nova Scotia. So, the the family that is featured in the Berry Pickers is in Nova Scotia, and then goes to Maine to work during
Yep.
the season, right?
Yep.
And so, what has some of the reaction been? I mean, we talked a little bit about, all the awards, but
Yeah.
what are you hearing, like when you're one-on-one with folks?
I hear positive. Of course, no one's going to tell me they don't like my book to my face. Thank you for
Well,
that.
yeah, right.
I do
Please
read
and
my
thank you.
Goodreads though, so there's some people that are not fans, but I really appreciate it when people like who know the area and are
Mm,
local to it say that they enjoy the book. My heart sings when the Mi'kmaq say that they see themselves in it and that they like the book, and they're like, "Oh, did that really happen? Because I remember something like that happening." I was like, "No, that's pure
mm,
coincidence," but I really like
mm,
that. And folks from Maine, they're like, "You did really well at describing Maine." And getting the feel of Maine. And I was like, that's great because I mean, I've been to Maine probably a dozen times, but not
mhm.
like my dad. But yeah, I really like it when people especially from the Valley, from Nova Scotia and Mi'kmaq folks just really can connect to it. I really like that. That makes me
That's awesome. Does your
excited.
dad speak the language?
No, a
Does he
few
know?
words here and there.
Mhm,
We don't really. My brother-in-law does. He's fluent.
mhm,
He's from Wagaba First Nation in Cape Breton, but
mhm.
we're all trying to learn. But it's such a difficult language when you're not raised in it. So yeah.
Yes. Wailalin, right? Pidgilasi. I know a few. I know a few. Um, so let's move. I did want to mention the excitement is not just local. It's gone
Mhm.
global.
It has
And
gone global.
so
Yeah.
talk a little bit about how many languages is it being translated into?
Yeah, currently we're sitting at 16, so that's kind of fun, and today I received mine from the Czech Republic, my copy, and just that's so strange to see it in another language. I received my Italian copy last week. I already have my French copy, so that's kind of cool. So, yeah, I get
Wow.
copies, so they all come in, so I'm just putting them on the shelf and
Oh, that's
just
so
looking at.
cool. And
Yeah.
are the covers different from country to country?
They are, yep, the covers are all different.
Oh,
There's
wow.
Yeah, the British hardcover and the American hardcover are similar, but they are different. But then when the British, published the softcover, the paperback, just a couple weeks ago, it's completely different. So, and then, of course, like, the Dutch one plays off that one, and then the Czech Republic played off that one, so they all have their little ways. The Korean one is completely different, so, yeah,
Wow.
it's fun to see it
How
out
does that
there.
feel? Like your book is international. No, I mean distribution internationally,
Mhm.
is your publisher does that automatically, but in all those languages, what
Yeah.
was the first language it was translated into?
French. Yeah, it's
French. Oh,
French. Yeah,
okay.
we're in
That
Canada, so,
that would make sense.
yeah, the Shiraz bag from, Quebec bought the French rights, so, they're publishing in French. After that, I can't remember who bought. I think I was a little surprised. Oh, the Romanians. They were the first after that, and then once they came on, Lithuania's there now, and the Ukraine. Um, yeah,
Wow.
China was an early one. So, yeah, it's just
Wow.
really, really fun to see, and Korea was kind of fun because I lived in Korea for 2 years, so just
Oh,
having
wow.
my book over there in the language is kind of exciting.
And when was that? Like a long time ago or
Yeah, I lived there 2003 to 5, I believe. Yeah,
and
2003.
what brought you to Korea?
I was
Teaching?
teaching English, yeah,
Okay.
yep,
Excellent,
yep.
excellent. One of my nephews taught English in Seoul for a year.
Oh, nice. Yeah, I was down south,
Okay.
South Korea, but yeah, I did love it there, so.
So, of course, the question, it remains, is there any talk translating it into Mi'kmaq?
I have had discussions about that, but,
Mhm.
the it's hard with, like, literary fiction. I think it would be difficult because there's not that many who speak to the level, and
Right.
they might be overwhelmed by it, and I wouldn't wanna do that, so while
Mhm.
it would be ideal, I might focus on see if I can get somebody to translate one of my short stories or something.
Yes. Oh
Yeah.
my goodness. Well, we have one of our children's books that was translated into Mi'kmaq, and that was a lot of fun. So I
Yeah.
do have a few words in my arsenal.
Oh,
Um,
nice.
yeah. So let's talk a little bit about. Let's move to the short story collection, "Waiting for the Long Night Moon,"
Yes.
which came out in August.
Yep,
Yes.
August
Oh, it's
13th.
beautiful.
Yeah, the
I
cover was
actually
lovely.
it's gorgeous. Who designed the cover? I have it on Kindle, so
Collins.
So
HarperCollins.
HarperCollins is
Yeah,
your, and they published the Berry Pickers as well,
they
correct?
did. Yep.
Right.
Yep.
And so they handle all of the international rights and
No,
translation rights. No, that went
no, my
to
agent does that.
oh, okay,
Yeah,
okay,
yeah.
okay. Well,
So
it's
she
always fun to understand sort of the background of how all this
Yeah, the
comes to
publishing
be.
industry is complicated, like, and it's I think HarperCollins Italy or
Okay.
Germany as HarperCollins. The rest are just independents or other publishers. In the UK, it's Fig Tree, which is part of Penguin Random House, so you just never know.
Oh, wow. Okay. And who's your agent?
Marilyn Biderman from Transatlantic. She
Transatlantic,
is my
obviously
angel.
doing an incredible job.
An incredible job. Like, what I just can't even every time I'm like, "Thank you, thank you, thank you, Marilyn." She's like, "It's just so good to have this to work with," and
That's
yeah, she's brilliant.
awesome. Well, and we can go down that rabbit hole just a little bit because I think it's fascinating and of interest to, a lot of our viewers, are authors, new authors, who are interested in this kind of the business of the publishing. Um, so the Berry Pickers being your first novel, did you have it in your mind that I want it traditionally published and I'm going to go out and get an agent?
No, I wanted an agent because I don't really understand the business of it,
Mhm.
and I didn't really want to get as in depth. I know the surface level. She explained things to me, but I didn't want to have to represent myself in that area. I just wanted to create.
Mhm.
So I sent out query letters for agents. I got a whole whack of no's, like loads of no's. And then she contacted me through a friend and said, "A friend told me you have some writing," so I sent it to her, and yeah, she's like, "Okay, let's work together." And then she waited almost 2 years before I gave her the berry pickers because I told her I wanted to give her something I was proud of. So she's
Mhm.
very patient with me. Oh, she's very patient with me.
Well, that's incredible. Congratulations. And people need to understand that there are a lot of no's before there's a yes. And this isn't an overnight like, ooh, that's great. I woke up one morning and I was famous, right?
Yeah, no, there's a lot of no's.
Yeah.
I tell my students because I teach creative writing in Acadia, and I tell them, I said, if you don't like rejection, if rejection bothers you, and if you don't like constructive criticism, this might not be the path you want to take.
Oh
Because
my goodness.
yeah, but you just
Yeah.
have to persevere. Mhm.
I had to take a deep breath when I got edits back, third round of edits I'm working on my next novel. And it's just like, okay, I thought we were closer.
I feel ya.
Yeah, but it's okay. And then after a good night's sleep, I messaged her today and I said, I'm really actually excited about rewriting some of these scenes. So,
Yeah, editors are the unsung heroes, eh? Like, oh,
right.
I love my editors. It's just great.
Excellent, excellent. And so the editor that you worked with on the Berry Pickers,
Mhm.
do you work with the same, creative folks
Yep,
for the short story collection?
yep, same one. Yep,
Oh, and
Janice.
so how long a period of time did these stories evolve over?
So I wrote the short stories before the novel,
Okay.
and HarperCollins bought them together as a package. Um, yeah, and the Berry Pickers was what I thought was a short story for the longest time. So turns out it wasn't; it was a novel. But they bought them at the same time, and they were written mostly before the Berry Pickers, and a few while the Berry Pickers was happening. If
Okay.
something inspired me, or if I was just getting really mad at the Berry Pickers and had to put it away for a month or two, and I would go like I still wanted to write and be creative, but
Mm,
I was just like, "Ah, you're bothering me." So I would go and tinker with the short stories. So they are actually written before. So
okay.
they were written over a couple year period.
Okay. And what I noticed was they're all different lengths,
Yes, yes.
and but you also address there's like a little paragraph of trigger warnings at the very beginning, and you
Mhm.
address some dark themes, some uncomfortable truths.
Yep.
But again, I think sometimes with a trigger warning, for me that means this is even more important to read,
Yeah, I want
right?
people to read it, but I wanted to make sure that people who have already experienced trauma, I
Yes,
wasn't re-traumatizing them. So,
for
pick
sure.
and choose what you feel and try to find the joy because there is a lot of joy as well. And like I ended I had with my because there's a lot of work that goes into ordering short stories. And I said, I'm not really concerned about that, but I want to start with this one and I want to end with this one.
Okay.
Because the one I started with was the first story I wrote with Indigenous characters, Indigenous content, and the
Mhm.
last story is one of hope and resilience, and I
Nice.
wanted it to end that I wanted to start with what I feel was the first time I was proud of my writing, and then
Oh,
and then
oh,
the last one, I wanted it to show that we are still here, we are resilient, we are going to be here, and we experience joy and love, and yeah, so that
yeah, we're
was
not going anywhere. Yeah.
wanted it.
And I mean, it must bring you a lot of joy to be able to nurture young writers. Like what level are you teaching at Acadia?
So it's just undergrad,
Okay.
but in my course, they just have to have taken like an introduction to creative writing, and I think they had to take first year English. And they're just last year we had just such a great time. At the end of the class, like the very last class, they wouldn't leave. They're like, "We don't want to go. We don't want to leave." It was just such a good time, and they were such brilliant writers, and they were so passionate about learning and writing. And I mean, they're more like colleagues, right? It's just so inspiring. So my class this year, I'm teaching it again in the winter on creative writing
Mhm.
workshop, and I'm just so excited about it. It makes my week.
Oh, absolutely. And it's so how wonderful to be able to teach your passion, of course.
Oh, I tell everybody, I said I'm literally living my dream. People pay me to read books, to talk about writing, to write books, and to write. Like
Right.
it's like for a book nerd and a writer, that's the dream, right?
What's wrong with that picture? What were some of your favorite genres and books growing up? Like,
Oh, well, Babysitter's Club, hands down.
okay.
Got me into reading. Got me into reading, but for literary purposes, like when I was 16, I read of Mice and Men, and I never turned back, right? I just oh,
One of the banned books,
uh,
in the
yes,
US. It's like crazy.
read banned
Oh,
books.
I want to get a T-shirt. I'm going to get a
Yeah.
T-shirt.
So that was kinda and I've read everything about John Steinbeck, and I was down in California this summer to accept the Andrew Carnegie Award, and I made it my mission to drive down to Salinas and go to John Steinbeck's house, so and I was just
Wow.
so overjoyed because 'cause I've been wanting to do that since I was 16, so my best friend was with me, and she was just taking pictures of me because I was just glowy. Um, but my favorite I love Indigenous authors, obviously, there's so many brilliant ones. I also love Jane Urquhart, one of my faves.
Mm,
So she just came up with a new one that I can't wait to sit down, but I'm waiting for Christmas because I want to like just have the time to sit and read and not think about
you
anything.
you wanted to devour it and
Yes, I do, and I can't really do that right now because I'm reading, I have an honor student who I'm trying to work with, so I wanna know what they're interested in, so I'm reading some of their stuff they're interested in. So I'm just doing a lot of that, so I wanna wait till Christmas, and I can't wait till it's really quiet, and I got my cup of tea and my
the
new
tree
tea.
lights on.
Yes, it's so exciting, so
Fire in the fireplace.
yeah, but there's so many brilliant authors, and I'm so lucky to actually be really good friends with a lot of really brilliant Indigenous authors now, so
Mm.
there's just so much out there. It's so hard to decide.
It really is. And our region, the Atlantic provinces are just so there's a thriving in the literary community and so many, amazing stories coming out. So it's a great time to be in the industry and especially in our neck of the woods. So let's
Yeah,
talk about this Pidgey Boog, Winter Arrives
winter arrives. Yeah.
from the very beginning. So I started, making little notes and highlighting stuff. And the very first one, the point of view from the young Indian child,
Mhm.
I highlighted the line, they smile very little, these pale ones. I wonder if it's the heavy clothes and stiff shoes that make them bad tempered.
Yeah.
Like, okay, talk about some of these short stories and some of the crossover themes
Yeah,
that can
well,
reappear.
there's 17 short stories, and like you said, there some are flash fiction and some are longer ones. One of the stories is called "Waiting for the Long Night Moon," and that's the
Mhm.
story that won the Indigenous Voices Award in 2021.
Okay.
So that's why it's called "Waiting for the Long Night Moon." But it does
Mhm.
deal with some strong themes. It deals with spirituality, the juxtaposition or the conflict between Christianity and Indigenous spirituality. We talk about the fight for clean water. There's a story about the Acadian expulsion in there and how the Mi'kmaq were. It's fiction, of course, but
Mhm.
my head what might have happened as the Mi'kmaq watched their friends being put into boats and
That's my background, Acadian French.
right. So it's a story about because the Acadian and the Mi'kmaq got along really well and their shared hatred of English. So I wanted to write a story honoring their friendship. So that's in there. I'm trying to think. There's like I have to get it out. Look,
So many. Oh my goodness. The Golden Cross.
yes, the Golden
When
Cross. That
when
one
she
was.
talks about the spirit divide, to me, the Mi'kmaq spirituality is more, feels better to me than I was brought up Roman Catholic, right? I always say I'm a kind of a fallen Catholic. When you listen to their beliefs, and there's lots of Mother Earth and Father Moon and all that. If I got that right, or is it the opposite? it resonates more with me. So this discussion about the spirit divide, and they're on the other side waiting.
Yeah.
When you lose somebody, it means a
Yeah.
lot, right?
Yeah, that comes up a lot. I had a friend once who came home from a Sundance and said, "I saw your grandfather." And I was like, "What?" He's like, "I saw him. He was at the Sundance." I was like, "Oh, fantastic! Like, great."
I
So,
know.
yeah, some people believe that, some people don't, and that's okay. People have their own beliefs, but I like to put a little bit of what we may or may, and then a lot of Mi'kmaq are Catholic as well, so
Yes.
they have different beliefs or they have mixed beliefs. So
Yes.
I just wanted to touch on a little bit of everything for everybody.
I've been in. I think it actually is St. Anne's Church in. Um, uh, oh my goodness, in Cape Breton.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Yeah,
Wild.
on reserve. No, it's the big reserve in Sydney.
Oh, member 2.
Member 2. I had to M. I'm like, oh my goodness, how could I forget that? I've been there so many times. So why don't you read an excerpt from one of the short stories for us?
I was just gonna read a little excerpt from a story called "Tiny Birds and Terrorists." Just the beginning, because it kind of leaves you going, "What?"
That one broke my heart. Oh my goodness. Okay.
The last of the night shift have started to fade into the distance. It's time for food and sleep. In the field between us and those dressed for war, a small fire sputters from neglect. We watch the soldiers as they stand in a straight line, blocking the horizon, their face shields hiding their eyes. They shift nervously and look behind them every few minutes. The morning passes this way, their unease sinking into our songs and breaking the rhythm of our chants. We stand side by side, our arms wrapped around each other's waists, singing and praying. Then, just before noon, as we spread food out on blankets in preparation for lunch, a crack forms in the black wall as they part. They arrived 2 days after the television called us terrorists. So many trucks of the ground vibrated under their feet, and the rumbling woke Sisipjij. 10 or 20 at a time crawling out of the back of the military vehicles, large tents erected behind them, 2 straight black lines blocking our way to the road, our access to showers and food. They stand so still, watching us from behind their tinted visors, their hands resting on their batons, ready for a fight that we don't want. They outnumber us 3-1. They carry guns and tasers, we carry drums and songs. Something's wrong. Mala stands and offers her hand to help me up. Sisipjij, strapped securely to my back on her cradle board, sleeps through the tension. Mala helps me to her feet just as the nesting birds lift out of the grass, their bodies moving together, a cloud of bird song hanging overhead before they bear left, escaping. Opposite us, a few of the men hang their heads. Their chins brush the thin plastic of their chest protectors until the one in charge yells and they snap their heads back into place. Mala lets go of my hand, breaks away from her group, and moves to the center of the field. "I need to get a closer look," she shouts back to us. I am very aware that I have Mala's baby strapped to my back. The ties crisscross over my shoulders and across my chest. The others behind me stop eating and stand, walking toward Mala. The air is breathless in the warm spring morning. Sisipjij jolts awake and begins to cry, frightening those on both sides of the divide, scaring the last of the birds out of the grass. One of the soldiers thrusts his hands up into the air, his black arms silhouetted against the calm prairie sky. When he drops it again, the air is filled with the sound of rushing water. The whoosh of the water cannon drowns out the sound of a crying baby. I just leave that one there.
Oh my goodness. And that one just, oh my goodness, was just so impactful. And we've only got a minute or so here, but 3 billion heartbeats.
Yeah.
What's fascinating as you read through these is you choose so many varied points of view.
Hmm.
And this one was, I don't want no spoilers. This one was a pretty unique point of view.
Yeah, yeah, I won't say anything there because it is,
No.
it is very unique, but yeah, that one was a little it was hard writing that one. Like,
Bet.
it was like, "Oh, this one's hard," but and I thought about not writing it, but
Mm,
this kind of thing has happened to Indigenous women
yes.
and continues to happen to Indigenous women, so I said I wanted, as much as I was like, "Oh, I don't know if I wanna put that in there," I did make the decision that it was gonna go, so,
I
yeah.
think it's a very important story to include
Thank
for
you.
sure. Well, I'm so happy that we've had this chance to chat, and thank you so much for sharing those excerpts. I want to bring up your website again. If anybody wants to learn more about Amanda and her books, visit amandapetersauthor.com and read up on what she's up to. And there's Holly. I was hoping Holly would make a
It's
cameo
summertime
appearance.
here in Falmouth, so
Summertime.
it is
Well, you'll
super
have to let you go so you can feed Holly and keep the animals happy, which is so important. They're our fur babies, right?
Yes, they are, very much so.
Well, happy right and enjoy the tours. And again, thank you so much for joining us today. We
Thank
really
you for having
appreciate it.
me. Okay.
And thank you for joining us on the author journey today. I'm Ann O'Connell. We'll see you next week. In the meantime, enjoy your day and happy reading and writing. Bye for now.